Now let's go to the rating phase. The first thing that you need to do is to structure your talk. So if you already know how other people present in the field, what your teacher or organizers want from you, and who your audience is, then you can now sit down and give a structure, which can also be like the outline. So a talk needs to have an introduction, which is who you are, what's the context of your talk, why you are presenting it, and it should be relatively short for the talk. And it also has a body which explains the topics, the work you did, and it's gonna be the longest part of your talk. And then you're gonna end with a conclusions, which you may be reviewing the key points if needed. You're gonna do some call to actions. You're gonna say some future work or some references. And you need to assign a reasonable time and number of slides for each part because you don't want to have a 35-minute presentations to have a 20-minute introduction.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about timing, but a lot of it is also going to come down to just it's going to come down to the presentation that you're doing. The introduction is usually, if you're doing a breath kind of talk, then the introduction is going to not only be like you introducing yourself and the topic, but also doing the breath, and then the body would be the depth. But if you're doing, sorry, did I say a breath to begin with?
Yeah.
Okay. If you're doing a breath kind of talk, the introduction is going to be introducing you and the topic, and then you're going to be talking about the different areas in the topic, and that'll be like the breath. But if you're doing a depth conversation, then in the depth, the introduction will look like the introduction and body of a breath presentation, but it'll be it'll be much briefer, and you're going to be going straight into like these technical talks, or technical, or straight into the material in the body, and you're going to have expecting your audience to kind of understand what you're talking about when you're talking about the breath in the introduction.
And this is very important. When you are giving a presentation, understanding is the most important thing. So if you're presenting your own research, explain your contribution. That's why people are there. And if you're presenting on a topic that is already established, not what results are important. Not everything that is already written about that topic is equally important. They're not. And that's why I said to watch other presentations so that you know how people give importance to each of the different topics, each of the different parts of the presentation. And depending on the topics, you may use some two examples and real life applications instead of abstract proof, except when you are doing a math presentation and your principal contribution is the proof itself. But in most things, to example and real explanation, real life application is going to be the best thing to add. And you need both accessibility and technical depth, so make sure you find the right balance.
Yeah.
And when you are when you are writing a presentation, don't reinvent the wheel. You need to focus on understanding your topic and understanding your audience, but don't start things from scratch. Use online templates. So if you want a math heavy slide deck, Beamer is the best. If you want to do a lot of animations like what I'm doing now, use PowerPoint. And if you want just to do like text only and you want just it to be cute and easy to use, very quick, you just only have 10 minutes to write it, and you don't care about math, you don't care about animation, you just want it to look good, then Canva is the tool that you wanna use. And if you want it to be like portable and shareable, Google Slide will be what you're going to, but you also can start typing it on PowerPoint and upload it when you are ready to share it with other people.
Something is that you may do the original talk on PowerPoint or on Google Slides, and then you may bring it to Canva to do like a quick alteration rather than trying to go through and edit everything on PowerPoint. And that might make it so then you can do something quick and easy to change it from a talk in one venue to a talk in another. So,
Yeah. Yes, and keep your talk. Yeah, that's also very important, but I didn't put that there. Like, keep a digital version of your slides. Like, don't just erase them after
don't
after
delete
each
the
talk.
file.
Don't delete the file. Keep them safe. You are gonna
You
refer
could
to them.
reference them, or you could reuse them as a template.
Yes, definitely. And a presentation is a story. So all of your slides need to have a reason to be in that presentation. So ask yourself, why is this slide here? If there is no reason this slide should be here, then remove it. If a slide doesn't help explain or illustrate the main key point, then remove it. Sometimes you are emotionally attached to the slide. You think like, okay, but this graphic is really good. I really want it to be here. If it doesn't help tell the story, if it doesn't help support the key points, it doesn't belong there. It may belong to another talk, but just not there.
One thing I know with this I have is that when I'm giving a talk, I will often add in additional information that's like, yeah, but this is really interesting, or yeah, they should really know this. But when it comes to the purpose of the presentation, it's not important. If I were to ask, yeah, but do they need to know this in order for them to understand what I'm trying to talk to them about? It may be really interesting, and it might even be important to know. But if it's not about the slide, you may not want to have it in there. If you need to remove it, you need to remove it.
Yeah, so ask yourself, like, does my story flow? How do each slide connect to the next slide?
Yeah, and that's more of this. Your presentation is a story, and you don't want to stop the story and then talk about something else. Before I complete the story, let me tell you about this other story. Or uh, you want it to be one continuous story where the reason why you're going from this slide to the next is not because you're going to talk about an entirely different story, but because you're transitioning into like the next event that's happening, the next scene. That's kind of
Yeah.
what you want to think about it as. Not so much this is a different topic or a different theme or something like that. You're transitioning into the next scene of the story, and it should feel very natural to go on to the next part. It shouldn't feel like, okay, now we're talking about something completely different. You don't want that to happen. That's something that's going to be like the person watching is going to be like, oh, okay, I need to forget about what I was just learning because I need to now focus on this new topic here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so let's talk about visual aids. If possible, like, include as much visual aid as that can support the topic that you are presenting. So, for example, if you use math, use LaTeX for equations, and your visual aid should be like visually appealing. You can write math equation in PowerPoint using math type, but it's not as good as um, a math equation written in LaTeX.
yeah, I mean, we're both math people in engineering and physics, and a lot of the sciences they will use LaTeX as well, just because you have a lot more control over what you type out. However, it tends to be a bit cumbersome if you're trying to do a lot of things. LaTeX is really good for making a single, like putting in each individual piece, but you're having to tell it exactly where to put each of these individual pieces. Uh, so if you're trying to do something big like a picture, if you're trying to draw something and you want that drawing to be there, LaTeX is not going to be easy to do that. Technically possible, but also really difficult to do.
Yeah. And what kind of this is also, I saw some people who are doing like typing their LaTeX in GeoGebra and then take a screenshot to put on PowerPoint. But I think working in Beamer immediately is better than that. But that's if you want, if you just want to have like quick equation and if you don't have a lot of them. And yeah, and also include relevant figures, graphs, and diagrams. And this is very important. Avoid clutter and excessive text. If you cannot read it from far away, you shouldn't put it there. Like split it. Write as concise as possible. You don't need sentences on your presentation. You don't need sentences. You
Yeah.
need keywords.
And yeah, this is kind of where what back in the beginning when I was talking about you have a point and then you have an image and then you have another point, that image goes away and then replaced by a different image. And so that was kind of like the idea that was going on there, is that if I had all of these images there on the same at the same time, then it would make a lot of clutter. But if I only had one on there at a time, you got a lot less clutter.
Yeah, definitely.
And you can see like, okay, this point is relevant to this one. I usually only put like more than one image if I want my audience to see both images at the same time and either compare them or look at them as one unified image.
Yeah. And you can use images, stock images to illustrate your point, and use tables if needed. There are different services online like Pixels where you can download stock images for free, so take advantage of those.